The reason people recommended you is because not only are you good at what you're doing, but you make them look good if you do the job that they know you can do. So you got to be that person.
Sure.
And that takes discipline. That takes the brain to focus and to know that end goal.
Yo, what's up, guys? My name is Andile. Welcome to the first episode of the Real Podcast. Today, I have a special guest with me. His name is Jay. I'll let Jay introduce himself. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I still actually introduce myself as Jay, but I've been trying to switch to my full name, which is Juvae Sewpersad. I think I used to allow people to say Jay, and I introduced myself to you that way, just because it's easier for people. But I find now I actually want to own my name. I think that's just something as I get older, I want that to be the thing that I enter this industry with, you know?
Sure.
So it's Juvae.
Juvae, okay, cool, great, awesome. So, I mean, would you mind like just telling like everyone, like the viewers and the listeners, you know, a little bit more about yourself?
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of crazy. This last year has been mad for me.
Sure.
I finished studying at AFDA in Cape Town last year. And I left there thinking, okay, well, now I've got a degree and I've got an honors. What do I do next?
Yeah.
And my answer was, I don't know actually what I'm going to do next.
What is the case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's scary because then you realize for 4 years you were like, okay, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to be an adult. And then it's like, you're an adult now. And so that happened at the beginning of the year. And then I worked as a DOP for a couple of music videos and I assisted on a couple of small sets. And then I got an email with a possible job on this Apple series.
Sure.
The thing, though, is I didn't qualify for it. So I needed 8 years more experience in the job to be able to even qualify for that one.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And, you know, I looked at that email and I said, it's the worst that could happen. They say no. And I had experience since I was about 15 directing my own stuff, but none of that I felt qualified. Maybe it was an ego thing that I thought maybe I wasn't good enough or what I did wasn't worth it yet. So I just applied anyway. I applied. I didn't expect a response back. A couple of weeks went by, maybe 3 weeks. And then I got an interview.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I stepped into the interview. And again, I didn't have the experience, so I expected failure in a way. So I went in thinking, this is a great learning experience for me. I'm not going to get this. And so I interview very naturally because, there was no pressure on me to be anyone.
Yes.
They knew I didn't qualify.
Yeah.
So clearly something just went right. And I was like, I'm just going to let it be that.
Yeah, most definitely.
And then, you know, again, 3 weeks go by. I assumed I didn't get it. And I just kept looking for other opportunities. I get a call saying, you know, we want you on this job. Can you start next week?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But then I was like, oh no, I caught the job. I got the job. That's even worse than not getting it because now I have to actually show up and do the work.
Yeah.
And again, that inner voice was like, you know, you've worked on independent stuff. You've shot your own stuff.
Sure.
How are you going to work on a real film set? What do you know? And I said, I actually don't know anything.
Actually, that's always the case, brother. Yeah. That's always the case, bro. Like I've been on sets where we would get some students, and then when they get on, like, or maybe postgraduates, and then when they get on set, you know, on the real set, and then some of them realize that this is not actually what I studied, or this is not what I've been studying in the past 3 or 4 years, whatever, you know. So yeah, I mean. I'm quite intrigued to hear, you know, your side of the story. You know, when you from school, you're doing your own things, went to school, after school, and then now you're getting into the real world. You know, like how did that come up? How did that go about for you? You know,
I think it didn't go how I expected. So I expected to get there, and I wasn't going to know anything, and I'd have to pay attention 1,000% harder than someone that has been working in this industry from the start. You know, grips upwards.
Yeah.
But I got there, and the equipment was a lot bigger and a lot more pricey. And they had a base camp and a tech camp and a set, and you got all these cool walkie-talkies and stuff going on.
Yes.
But the core of what was at film school was the core of what was here. And so within a day, I understood everything I needed to be able to continue the next day. So I knew who everyone was. I spent the first day getting to know, okay, these are the different departments. This is what they expect of me. This is what the director expects of me, because I came on to assist the director.
Yes.
With the knowledge I had from film school, I was able to learn quicker because I'd been in similar environments, not the same one.
Yes.
So when I started, I expected film school to be a handicap. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah.
And then I got there and I was like, oh, I'm really grateful for, especially for the honors year, which if you know me in film school, I'm the last guy that would say this. I was in my honors year thinking I should ask for a refund. Like, what am I getting out of this? And then to leave, and that humbled me. I was like, all right. So I'm glad I spent 4 years developing my thoughts.
Yes.
Because that's what it really was, and that's what kept me in the job. And they ended up hiring me to another director on another block, because I was only supposed to be on one block.
Yes.
And they hired me to another block, and then they were hiring me to another project, and another film production wanted me as well. I got 3 job offers that I had to turn down during shooting, from going from, how do I get work? Am I going to have to rely on my parents for another year? What am I going to do? Do I have to go work in retail? To I have to turn your position, like your job down, you know? And a crazy thing happened, because I turned one job down and they came back and doubled the salary.
Really? That means you were doing something right. And you were doing something right.
But it was crazy to me. Again, I was living on an allowance last year, you know?
Yeah.
My parents were supporting me. And so from there going like, okay, I need to count my money. How many times can I go to the grocery shop? How much is petrol going to cost?
Yeah.
To coming where I'm earning enough money to say, you know, I can take care of myself. I can choose which jobs I want.
Yeah, that's great, man.
That was an amount of power. I didn't expect how much clarity would come with it.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, just a quick question, you know, like I know from myself, you know, like getting into the film industry, you know, I never knew that I was going to be a director. I never knew that I was going to be on this department, you know, because I studied drama. I wanted to be an actor. But then it happened that I met this amazing lady called, what's her name? Completely forgot her. She's a producer. So she liked me. I liked how things were happening like behind the scenes. So she took me in under her wing and she mentored me. And that's how I got into the industry. But I started from the bottom as a PA. That was like 2006, I believe. It was a drop out of my second year in drama school, you know, because of I was going into, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, sorry. I never knew that I wanted to be a director. Something that happened. It's almost like I can say it happened overnight. Like for you, you know, did you always knew that you wanted to be like a director or a DOP, or is it something that, you know, you knew that before you even like maybe when you were in high school or something like that? Because when I was in high school, I wanted to be a lawyer. You know what I mean? But then when I finished my studies, like my grade 12, then things changed. I wanted to do drama. You know what I mean? That was me. So what was the case with you? Did you always knew that you wanted to be a director or you wanted to be in this, you know?
A very good question, that. And I only really found the answer a couple of years ago. So my first answer, if you asked me when I was 21, would be, yeah, I was always going to be a director. I made my first short film.
Sonja, the host. That was the producer.
That's her name? That
was the producer that took me in under her wing. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Sonja, to Sonia. Sam said Sonia, I used to say Sonja. Sonja, the host. She's the one that took me in under her wing, you know, and called up Gary Bieber from Radical Crew. You know, I did like a few jobs for them. For Sonia as a PA, and then she called Gary and said, Gary, I've got this young guy who wants to be a director one day, you know, but now can you take him in? Gary Bieber said, yeah, for sure. And then Sonja, the host, wrote like a recommendation letter for me. And then I went to Radical Crew's offices like right then. And then Radical Crew took me in. Since from then, Radical Crew, they took a good care of me, you know, up until, you know. So I just wanted to say Sonja, the host, you know, I'm sure if she's going to see this and then I forgot her name, she's going to be like, come on, Andile, you know. So yeah, I'm sorry for cutting you on your...
No, I don't think you cut me off. I think to honor the people that got us here is very important.
Exactly, yeah.
And that kind of leads back to it perfectly, because when I was younger, I always thought that I would always be a filmmaker. I
Yeah.
thought that that was going to be how it was. I picked my dad's camera up when I was about 8 or 9. He had one of those old vintage cameras, and I just started shooting stuff.
Sure.
And then I just kept shooting stuff, short films. When I was 12, I was making maybe 20 a year.
Sure.
When I got to 15, I made my first feature-length thing.
Wow. Wow.
None of them were good. Like, I was making them, but none of them were good.
You know what I've learned from the first DOP that I ever spoke with? He told me that it was Soncha who introduced me to this DOP. This DOP said to me, Andile, just pick up a camera and shoot anything.
Yeah.
Shoot anything and put your name on it as a director. And then you are the director.
I agree. And
so that's with what you're saying now, that none of them was good. I mean, was good. I mean, that's what it just reminded me that now.
Yeah, because although they weren't good, and I can assure you they weren't,
Sure.
they were still really good learning lessons.
Yeah.
Because I was still making stuff. I was still passionate. I was still using my time proactively to be a
Sure.
filmmaker. But it was only when I was maybe 23, 24, so like 2-3 years ago, that I actually realized the real reason I got into cinema. And when I did, it kind of broke my heart that I didn't acknowledge that sooner.
Yeah.
And it was simply that my dad loved films. And he worked really long hours, and he provided a good life where I could do something like this.
Yeah.
So when he came home, he was quite tired. And so he would watch movies, and that's how we spent our time together.
Sure.
And so it just clicked. I was like, oh, I wanted to be this thing my dad loved so much and got to do in his spare time. It had nothing to do with picking up a camera at 8. That was just coincidence, I could easily have said, I used to play games like running or like hide, and that might have taken me down a career of Olympic athletes. My general belief on how my film experience was, it was largely my success was largely based on my own agency. And so if I didn't develop my skills of articulation and my ability to follow through on my thoughts, it wasn't going to work. And I can see that the effects of that now, because again, it was like 6-hour days at the most, with lots of free time to do things. And so you could procrastinate your work, or you could get it done immediately and keep working on other stuff. And the guys that were as talented as me are not working in film now because they did not use their time carefully. And that was a warning to me, because there's about 4 of us that I thought were on the same level.
Now I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Now I get it. That was my next question. That was going to be my next question. But now you already answered that. Why it happens that some other people will go through film school, and then after film school, they end up doing something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just answered that.
It's completely disciplined, because when you walk into the film industry, the first thing you might have heard is, oh, it's a very creative field, and everyone's very in tune with themselves. Yeah, that's true. But it also requires discipline to do that continuously. To continuously come to work and have to create things. It means you can't waste your time outside. I asked the guys that I was working with, these guys are heavyweight filmmakers. Do you love what you do? They're like, yeah, but it costs us a lot.
Yes.
They've been in the film industry for 40 years. All of them have won Emmys. All of them have been nominated for things like Oscars. And they said they barely see their family. That was a decision on their part, that I'm going to have to make it in my career, which means I'm probably not going to be home that much. So they're able to provide financially for their families beyond what most people could for their families, but they don't see them. And so all of those things have to be, quite honestly, told to you in film school. It's going to take discipline. You're probably going to have to eat well. You're probably going to have to sleep well. You're going to have to do some sort of exercise so that you can sustain yourself on a film set. You're probably not going to see your family that much if you become successful, because you're going to work long.
I mean, even if you're a PA, it's even worse when you're a PA. You won't see your family that much when you're starting up, like lighting department, especially lighting department. When you working like on exteriors, where you have actually interiors, because that's when most of the light is needed. You know what I mean? Those guys, they have combo, like some other shoots, we've got like 50 or 100 combo stands. And they have to, lights and, so yeah, I feel what you're saying, brother.
And that goes really well into one of my favorite answers from the director I was working with. I asked him, why do they keep hiring you?
Yeah.
You know, and there's a genuine question. Why do they keep hiring you over all the other guys that are as talented as you? He said, I work quickly.
Yeah.
And he said, I know what I'm doing and I work quickly because my job on set is to get everyone home.
Yeah.
That I get everything I need and I get everyone home so that I keep the energy and momentum alive for months.
Yeah.
But if I burn everyone out on the first day, second day, a week in, no one's going to be keen to come, and it's going to slow everything down even further.
That's correct.
And that's stuff you can't do if you're not disciplined in film school. You can't leave film school and expect, I'm going to get disciplined. How? You're going to struggle. You're not going to be able to focus. You're going to want to rely on things to cope with it.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily something like drugs. You might just want to sleep in. You're late for work.
Yeah.
You know, you're not prepped for work.
Yeah.
I got an opportunity, and this was, again, one of the craziest things to happen.
Sure.
To direct a scene from the finale of the series.
Sure.
And this only happened because I had shown this director that I was so in tune with the work, and I would show up to the job 20 minutes before him.
Jeez,
to walk around the entire, even if we had shot it the day before, I would get there 20 minutes before him and walk around the entire lot to make sure I knew where every bathroom was. I knew that he had his scripts. I had read the scripts. I had made sure that everything that the other departments needed were there, so that if he comes on set, he doesn't just get out the car and it's like, would you like a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
You know, I'll have what he wants ready and say, okay, so this is where all the departments are.
Yeah.
This is, okay, 20 minutes behind on makeup because of this and this and this, so he knows what happened.
Sure.
And so I had to develop good relationships with everyone. And that took time.
That's
you know,
crazy, bro.
I didn't see people for long periods of time that I care about because I had dedicated myself to this job. And if you don't do that, you get there and you're flustered, and then you don't do well, and then you think you can't do well, and then you just think you're not meant for this industry.
Yeah.
When all that happened was you didn't discipline yourself enough to be in that role, but your mind was good enough.
Yeah, bro. I love it. I love it, bro. It's almost like you've answered all the questions that I was about to ask you. You know what? You know, because my next question was going to be like, what's your advice, for young and upcoming, filmmakers, or those who wants to go to film school? I mean, you've answered all of all of that.
I think to extend on it then, take pressure off of yourself,
Yeah.
You're not going to make the Oscar film now.
Yeah.
You're not going to make the Oscar short now. Don't attempt for that. Learn one thing from the project. One thing, whether it's how to communicate with your departments,
Yes.
or what your departments actually do,
Yes.
or what is genre and how can you use it to sell your product.
Sure.
If you understand one thing clearer, not perfectly clearer, the next time you do the job, you have that tool. And then that one, you learn something new. And eventually, over the course of years, you've learned so many tools that your craft is just second nature to you.
It's crazy.
But I'll give you this as well.
Yeah.
When I was offered the point to direct, again, this was a finale. So this was 300 crew, I think maybe 200 extras, 3 or 4 wind machines. We had built this town.
Yeah.
There were A-list celebrity actors on the set. When he said you're going to be directing this next bit, he did work out with the DOP what shots we were going to do.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was doing everything, but I was going to do the directing role, the momentum, the pacing of the scene. When he said, you're going to be doing this, my first instinct was, oh no, you've got the wrong guy. My first instinct was to say, please don't give this to me. This thing I wanted my entire life. I said, oh, no, I should have been more prepped. And then I realized, I was prepped.
You're
I
putting
knew what
pressure
scene
on yourself.
Yeah.
Unnecessarily.
I knew what scene we were going to do. I'd read it. I had even cast the extra I was going to be working with that was interacting with the leads. And so I knew everything that was happening. So the first thing I did, and I recommend this to everyone that works in an industry as fast-paced as ours.
Yeah.
I just stood there for a second. I breathed 3 times just to calm my nervous system down. And then I said, okay, what is the first thing I usually do when I direct my friends? I need to hear the line. Okay, let's try that. Let's see if that's a good starting point. I listened to the line. I'm like, oh, you got it perfect. I believed it.
Yeah.
What's next? Well, the movement's probably important if we're going to be watching him. I had to move, and I was like, okay, no, wait, no, that's not. Something was off there. And then I work with him on that, and then And then I see, oh yeah, I can rely on the AD. I don't have to communicate with all these departments.
Yeah.
The AD is going to help me. He's got his God mic and he's booming through all the speakers on the set. So I say, okay, no, we're ready to go. Let's go for it. And again, this is like that learning process. It didn't stop for me, because when we rolled the first time, I was filled with so much adrenaline. I yelled, okay, we're ready to cut. And I ran up to the actor. And then I went back and I was like, whoa, this is like a minute or two to set up again. I should probably not cut, because everyone has to gather all the stuff they're using and the wind machines have to throw stuff.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, consciously, I'm going to do 2 or 3 in one roll. And then I did that. And then we got the take and I said, okay, I want to go for another one, but we should probably finish our day. And so I said, okay, we're done. Yeah, we can. And then the director stepped back and he continued working.
That's great, bro. That's great, man. So you say, preparation is key, preparation.
Conscious preparation.
Yeah.
Because you can prepare and not be prepared for all the other things that are going to go wrong.
Yeah.
So for me, that preparation was also, I had good relationships with all the HODs.
Sure.
So when I stepped on set, they weren't like, who the hell is this kid?
Yeah.
I had put the effort in to make sure that they knew who I was.
Sure.
You know?
Giving them confidence in you taking, like, in being in control of the security. They can trust you.
Yeah. I learned when to speak and when to really listen and when I could ask questions.
Yeah.
I learned about how they're setting up and when they need to be focused versus when asking a question is actually probably going to make this mundane job easier for them, that they're currently having to move stuff.
Yeah.
And so I would have to be very alert. Again, that took discipline, because I'd come home and the first thing I'd want to do is maybe order some takeout and watch a movie, but that would ruin the next day for me.
Yeah.
So I'd have to stretch, which I hated to do. I'd like sit at home going, oh God, I have to stretch. I just did a 11 to 12 hour day. I got to stretch now.
Yeah.
And then I got to take a dog for my dog for a walk, which I love the dog, but I didn't want to go for a walk. And then I got to eat healthy so that my body's taking care of itself. And then I realized, I didn't want to do those stuff, but I can't do the stuff I want without those things in place.
I got you, bro. I got you. Just to wrap up, what's your ultimate goal? What's your end goal? You've done your independent stuff before you went to school. You went to school and you've seen the big world, the real world of the industry. Like, what's your ultimate goal? That now, at least you have the foundation from your own things in school, and now at least you have the knowledge and the understanding of the real world, So where to from here? What's your ultimate goal? Like, what's your end goal in everything that you, or where to from here?
It's a good question, and I've been thinking about it for a while.
Yeah.
I found that my end goal is in line with bringing works to life like Ari Aster did with Hereditary and Midsommar, and Bong Joon-ho did with Parasite. Now, why those two specifically, why my goals are aligned with them, is they married art and a full understanding of the technique of cinema with commercialism. And that's hard to do. So their films weren't just independent and interesting and emotional. They also had a lot of value to a large market. Parasite did well. Hereditary did well. And so my goal is to take the stories that I believe are important, which are my culture and my heritage, and make them commercially successful, but still having the discipline and technique of art there. So if I can get that right, that's it. I'm happy.
Got you, brother. So you say, are you saying that, just the last question, are you saying that, do you recommend like going to film school, or do you recommend, for someone to start off like on the big world, like as a trainee, PA, all of that, or you recommend someone going to school first? What's your take on there, Because I've got my own opinion on that. So what's your own opinion? Because you've been to school,
I think it's incredibly relevant to talk about what the goals are. So if you want to be in a department like grips and lighting, or if you want to be in a camera department, HOD is not really, you're considering it, but camera operating sounds like the job for you. Then the best thing to do is go to a gear house. Work in a gear house, learn the equipment, learn about the people that are coming in to rent the equipment, get to know those guys. That will be your film school.
Sure.
Do I think you have to pay an institution and get a degree? Only if you're focused on abstract thoughts and developing them. But then I think the argument is a film school where you should do that, or should you take the equivalent amount of money that you're going to be paying to a film school and spend that on developing your own thoughts while using online resources?
Got you.
And I would say, if you don't know anyone in the film industry and you want to be a creative head, like a director or writer, film school's for you, quite honestly, because that's where you're going to meet people. You're going to get to know the technicians that want to be there. But unless that's your specific thing, I don't think film school's for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. So someone that doesn't have funds to go to school, or rather, they didn't do well, in their high school to go to film school, and they don't have the contacts, to get into film industry, to get their step on the door in the film industry. What can you advise them, like, if they want to follow their passion? Because at the moment it seems like going to school will open doors for you for when you're done, in terms of the big world of the industry. Or if you've got someone that, for instance, Sonja the host introduced me to the industry. The industry introduced me to Gary Bieber at Radical Crew. Gary introduced me to Martin Palmer, like a legendary first AD, that trained me as an AD growing up until I was. So that was my journey. Not everyone has that privilege enough to have the journey that I have with the people that I've met in my life that helped me to the point where now I'm an established director. You know what I mean? I can speak with big ad. I can speak with big ad agencies. Studios and stuff like that. Not everyone has that opportunity. So or go to school. So what can your advice be in a situation like that? Let's say, not just in Kailicha, let's say in Houtbe or wherever. They don't have access to an industry. They don't have access to go to. I mean, they can't go to school because they don't have money, or they didn't do well in school, in high school. But they want to,
My first instinct on that is first not to give advice, but to give a bit of a warning. Like, if you want to do this, if film is what you want and you don't have the means to study, you will struggle to be able to do it on your own, independently. You can't put aside funds to use online resources. You're going to have to sacrifice something. We all have to get that discipline. And for this person, it's probably going to be time. So they're going to have to find a way in. I think FILM, I think it's got a new name now, the Film Academy, or you're going to have to get in contact with people like that and say, I want to learn. But you can't do that until you're able to articulate yourself. If you can make it clear that I don't have the resources, but I have the mind. So you have to sharpen your mind first. That's one sacrifice. All the time that you spend not doing that is going to work against you.
Got you, brother.
So you got to sharpen your mind, find a place like FILM or, a producer and get a way in,
SAFA.
What's it called?
SAFA, SA Film Academy.
SA Film Academy,
Yes.
them. That's probably their best bet. But I think going off of what you said, like, the reason people recommended you is because not only are you good at what you're doing, but you make them look good if you do the job that they know you can do. So you got to be that person.
Sure.
And that takes discipline. That takes the brain to focus and to know that end goal. So if you don't have the resources, the odds are you're going to start as a grip. The odds are you're going to start low on the rungs. You're not going to be in the creative positions.
Definitely, bro.
And you've got to remind yourself, for years I might be doing this. But it is very dependent on how much I put into this job to show the people that can hire me higher.
Love it.
I'm the guy to do it.
Love it.
But it's not unheard of. Like, people like, I don't know if he went to film school, but David Fincher, like, we all know that guy. He started off as a VFX artist.
Yes.
So it's possible, but it's going to take sacrifice and hard work to do it.
Really, brother. All right. I think I'm good. That was it for our first episode. And Jay, we're gonna have his Instagram details and social media details on the screen, so you can follow him. Maybe you can DM him for some advice, or if maybe you would like his services or something, or whatever you need. You can hear that this is a very knowledgeable guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows a lot about the industry. Sitting here listening to him as well, taking some few things from him. So that was it for is there anything that you want to say to close up?
good luck to you. You know, this is a noble profession. You're telling the stories of people. We're in charge of culture right now.
Yeah.
Because the most dominant form of entertainment is visual entertainment, whether
Yes.
it's on YouTube or on Netflix. We get to tell the stories of humanity.
Exactly, brother.
It's a good thing to go through. So if you're going to sacrifice to do it, I think it's worth it.
Thank you so much, my brother.